Okay, hey guys, this video is gonna be about the post-interview phase. I'm gonna talk about the NRMP algorithm and how the matching process works, what you should be taking into consideration while making your rank order list, and what I think were the factors that went against me and did not. I mean, basically the reason why I feel like I didn't match into my top choice and what I think helped me match into the program that I matched into. So coming to the NRMP algorithm, it's very simple. It's basically programs rank you, you rank programs, and then if a program ranks you high and then you rank a program high, you end up matching to that program. If a program ranks you high and you rank the program low, then if the programs above your list haven't ranked you high, then you end up matching to that program. So it's I think self-explanatory when you think about it as a match process. But what's that YouTube video? So what they say is that if they interview 10 candidates, they rank 7 candidates, and so that means to say that 3 candidates go completely out of the rank order list of that program. And if they've ranked 7 candidates, it also depends how those 7 candidates have ranked this program. So it's luck at the end of the day, and a lot of times they say that if you go unmatched, it's not even like your interview went bad. It just means that they felt like there's somebody who's better fit into that program, and there are a lot of factors that go into the whole matching process. But to keep it as simple as to make it as simple as I can, it is just match programs. I mean, rank programs based on your preference, not based on how you've interviewed at that program and how much of a fit you think you're going to be for that program. It's all about your preference, and if you feel like you did your interview went well in program B, but you want to be in program A, rank program A as your first choice. It has no impact how you've interviewed and when it comes to the match process. Even though this is obvious, I felt the need to say it because there's a lot of discussion about this that goes on in the residency match forum. Um, when I made my rank order list, I pretty much knew what it was going to be like as soon as I finished my interviews, because one is that I felt like I was true to myself. I spoke to a lot of my seniors, and all of them also advised me to go with my gut. So I was a fresh graduate when I applied, and I got 4 interview calls from university programs and 2 from community programs, and I didn't go the traditional or typical way of ranking university programs first and then community programs. I went SUNY as my first option because of the prestige and because, well, it was the State University of New York. I ranked Maimonides second because the reason I chose to do this was it's very well known for cardiology. It's the best cardiology hospital in New York, and also I was an observer there, and I did genuinely see myself fit in and be happy there. And I'll come to what I think didn't help me match into that program. And I matched into my third choice, which was the Wright Center for Graduate Medical Education. It's in Scranton. What's below that, Texas Tech, Hackensack Seton Memorial, I just don't consider it really important because I stopped at 3, so I'm going to talk about 1, 2, 3. I ranked 3 programs below all universities, but there were reasons as to why I chose right above these programs, and I'm going to tell you what made me do that and what helped me match. So what's important now is why I think I didn't match into my first 2 choices. So SUNY, which was my first choice, I did not end up matching into it. What I made of it and what my entire analysis was is that I spoke to a lot of people, and they told me that they match 90% of applicants who are from their medical school, and if they're going to match somebody that requires a visa and a non-US IMG, it's either if the person has a very strong tie with the program or has an exceptional application. Now, my senior recommended me at the State University of New York But when I went there, I got to know that her aunt was a APD when she interviewed there. So her aunt really vouched for her, and she had a very strong tie with the university because of her aunt. So that's what she told me, and she told me that it's getting really difficult for non-US IMGs to match into that program. So that's what I made of it. No excuses, but I also didn't have an exceptional application to be a non-US IMG to match into that kind of program. So that's what I made of as to why I didn't match into my top choice. When it comes to Maimonides, which was my second option, and honestly, this was a program that I thought I would get into because I was an observer there and everybody knew me, and I had residents recommend me, I had a attending recommend me there. Um, is that one? When I was an observer there, I did not notice anybody in that hospital who was a fresh graduate, and this is a community program, and this is something that you should know about programs as a whole. They prefer certain candidates, and what I mean by this is um, community programs usually like candidates who have clinical experience in their home countries, like they've finished their residency, because it usually, especially when it comes to big cities, and more so New York City, Chicago, and the more populated cities, the workload is really high in these hospitals. So they expect you to be able to manage a lot, and it's sometimes difficult for fresh graduates to manage. Um, Being residents in such big hospitals in big cities, and also I think that I didn't perform well in my interview at Maimonides, and I think that could have had a good role to play as to why I didn't match there. And what I did wrong there was, one is that I was an observer there, so I kind of was extra. I would say I was nervous. I'm not a nervous person, but I did put a lot of pressure on myself, saying that that I've got this advantage. I can't screw this opportunity. And also, what happened was uh, there were a lot of faculty members that I interacted with during my observership, and I also became pretty well acquainted with the chief residents. There were four chief residents in that hospital, out of which I got well acquainted with three of them. And during my interview day, it turned out that I didn't know any of the faculty that was interviewing me, as well as the one chief resident that I didn't interact with much was interviewing me, and that put me into a spiral of losing confidence. And I just felt like, why is this happening to me? I had such a significant advantage, but it doesn't seem like it anymore. And I went in with this I mean, I would say like it affected my confidence in a way. And when I was interviewing as well with one of with the chief resident, my mindset was a bit off, because I felt like, what were the odds that the one chief resident that I didn't interact with ended up being my interviewer. And she asked me, why did you choose to do a rotation at Maimonides? And um, I told her that it's the best cardiology hospital in New York, and I told her that I have a lot of interest in the field. I like studying it, and I've done a rotation. And then she told me that I'm applying for internal medicine, not cardiology. So that really made I mean, after that, my brain froze during that interview, and I think it just went downhill from there. I mean, I didn't perform the way I wanted to in that one particular interview. So, and it's like they interview so many people that even if one out of four interviews don't go as you want it to, it can significantly impact your chances. So I already knew I was at a disadvantage because I was a fresh graduate, and I didn't have the particular profile that they look at. And everybody else who they was interviewing with me, and all the residents there were, had clinical experience and didn't have a similar profile to me. And on top of that, I didn't do justice to my interview day. So this is why I think I didn't match into Maimonides as well, even though I was an observer there. So, coming to a visa issue, one of the main reasons why I wanted to pick Maimonides over the Wright Center, even though I felt like I'm a better fit at the Wright Center, was because they were sponsoring H-1B visas. And here I'm going to talk about the two kinds of visas that they sponsor and what are the differences between the two and why I wanted a H-1B visa. So basically, you have the J1 visa and then you have the H-1B visa. These are the two visas that you can you can acquire, I would say, to do your residency. You can get to do your residency. So the difference is a J1 visa is now. I'm going to break it down to you, and what I've learned after matching, I would say, is that a J1 visa is a exchange visitor visa. What that means is that you go there as an exchange visitor to learn American culture and you bring it back to your country. So this isn't specific to physicians or doctors. It can be to research fellows. It can be for teachers, PhD graduates. It can be, apparently I watched a YouTube video which said that you can get a J1 visa even if you want to go and be a babysitter in America. So the whole concept of Make America Great is that when you go there, you learn their ways and you bring it back to your country and tell everybody how great America is. So this is what J1 visa is, and it's valid for 7 years. Now, a J1 visa has to acquire, the J1 visa is issued by the US Department of State, but the requirements to get a J1 visa issued by the US Department of State is that you need someone to sponsor your visa and you need someone to validate that they know what you're doing in the US, and they need to tell the US Department of State that whatever you've done in your home country before that is valid and adequate. So this is where ECFMG comes into play. ECFMG is basically the body that I told you, which they will verify your medical education credentials, and they will tell the US Department of State that, hey, look, this candidate is fit, he's acquired the required skill set and knowledge to be a physician in the US, and his medical education is equivalent to that of what we have here in our country. And two, they will sponsor your visa. So they give you a form which is, you don't need to know about that. So why I'm mentioning all of this is because once you complete your residency, technically you've signed a bond with India saying that you're going to go to the US, learn their ways, and come back here. There are ways to evade this and do a J1 waiver, but as simple as it is, if you wanna just do residency and then work after residency, you're gonna have to either come back to India, or you're gonna have to do a J1 waiver job. And J1 waiver jobs are basically restricted to certain areas based on the doctor-patient population ratio that they have. So I don't know. I felt like I wanted to do hospital medicine, like practice hospital medicine. Cardiology is my strong interest when it comes to fellowship opportunities. But I also did consider just doing hospital medicine. So that is why I was leaning towards a H-1B visa, and Maimonides is offering that to me. So what is a H-1B visa? It's a work visa. You finish residency on a H-1B visa, and then you just apply for a job, and the job will sponsor you a H-1B visa. So job opportunities after residency on a H-1B visa is far better than that on a J-1 visa. So what's the advantage of a J1 visa then? A J1 visa is a 7-year visa, like I mentioned. So if you're looking to do fellowships after residency, then finding a fellowship program that sponsors a H-1B visa is difficult. Finding a job is easy, but finding a fellowship program, especially the comparative fellowships. So the comparative fellowships are basically cardiology, it's oncology, it's hem-onc, it's a dual fellowship, and rheumatology, and the easier ones are infectious disease, and I mean, there aren't those many fellowships, but like gastroenterology again is competitive. Any, as simple as I can make it for you, any field that involves more inpatient care and involves more procedures are higher paying fields, and they're harder to get, as opposed to like infectious diseases where you're just consulting patients, or like nephrology. They're very easy to get, and you can even get into like Ivy League hospitals to do your fellowship. So J1 visa is good to do, is a good visa to uh, take if you want to do competitive fellowships. It's almost impossible to do like a cardiology fellowship on a H1B visa, but the other way around, when if it is for jobs and if you want to work after residency. Yeah, so this was the reason why I ranked Maimonides as my second option, because they were sponsoring H1B visas. And mind you, to get your H1B visa, you have to have taken step 3 before match date. That means to say that match day is on March 20th, and before that day, you should have got your step 3 result. And step 3 results can take up to 3 weeks, but there can be a delay for certain candidates if you take it after Jan. So what that means to say is that if you're taking step 3 end of Jan, then you may or may not get your result. It's again luck. I took it on Jan 27th and Feb 5th, and I got my result on March 13th. So I was lucky, but there is a chance that you might not get it. So people rush to take step 3 in December. So it's up to you whether or not you want to take step 3 to get a H1B visa. And if you're planning to take it, are you going to take it in December? Are you going to take it in Jan? If you're taking it in Jan, you're risking it. If you're taking it in December, it's going to be a little difficult because interview season's going on, and then you would be prepping for your application and as such. So I mean, I took step 3 in a month with a month of preparation, and I think it's a great decision to take step 3, if not in December, or if not even for a H1B visa, for the purpose of a H1B visa, get done with it, because it's a significant relief, and it can become a burden later on during residency. So think about step 3, and yeah, to get a H1B visa, you need step 3 result before March 20th. So people take it in December. And I've already mentioned what the difference is. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap this video up. I've spoken to you about my mistakes as to what I think didn't help me match, but I matched, and I matched into a great program, and I matched into a program with cardiology fellowships, with gastroenterology fellowships, and I matched into a program which is basically 1.5 hours from New York City, 1.5 hours from Philadelphia. Great location, great city, and I'll tell you what helped me match here. I think one is that it was my third interview, and I think by now I kind of got the hang of how to go about interview season. So there were a lot of it's a combination of my I would say hard work. I think maybe hard work and also luck. I'll tell you how. So hard work was, I prepared well enough by now to have to know that how interview season's like, and I'd done a lot of practice. And it was during our lunch. So we had interview with the program director, and then with the head of HR, and then there was lunch, and then there was a panel discussion, a panel interview. And it was during lunch when one of the chief residents just happened to come and sit down next to me, and she had just on that particular day they got their fellowship match results. So she had just matched nephrology at Washington University, and she was super happy or whatever. And I was just I struck a conversation with her, the chief resident, and I just kept speaking to her, and I made her laugh a lot. I don't know how, but I felt like I connected with her to a good amount when she sat next to me at lunch, and this was in the Hilton. They had interviewed us in the Hilton. They didn't interview us in Geisinger Hospital. So at the end of the conversation, I felt good, and then she told all of us sitting at that table that she's part of the panel discussion where we we were going to go and interview, and I felt like I was already at a significant advantage, because I felt like I'd already made an impression on her before I even went into that interview room, and I had no idea that she was going to be part of this panel discussion. So that was one big advantage I had. Another advantage I had was that this was pure luck again, is that the resident that was, so during your interview day, you'll have one resident who gives you a tour of the hospital and talks about the program on that particular day. And this resident is also analyzing you and giving feedback to the program director as to what kind of a candidate you are. So the senior of mine from Ramaya, who I was staying with, was in charge on this particular day, and it wasn't even like he particularly chose to do this on the day that I was interviewing. So, two big advantage number two, that I didn't have to worry about making an impression with this resident. So my confidence levels had spiked. So take home message for you is that confidence can make a big difference, and I think like it was these two factors. Even though that was my last interview of the day after I finished two, I felt like I nailed that interview to a significant effect, and it went to the extent of when another candidate who I was carpooling, we were sharing a cab back to the like apartment complex that we were staying at. He was staying with another resident, and the chief resident told that resident that my performance stood out, and then he sent me a text on WhatsApp saying that that you've done well and you should keep doing this or whatever. So I think that it didn't really come to me as a surprise as such. I don't mean to sound full of myself or whatever, but I kind of got this vibe and this feeling that this interview went really well, and that I would say I was at an advantage because of my senior being the resident in charge, and this wasn't the end of my journey at the Right. 2 days after my interview, I was looking up the head of HR, who happened to be a cardiologist, and I was just looking him up to send him a personalized thank you email. Like I mentioned, post-interview communication. So I was just looking him up, and turns out he was a cardiologist in Stroudsburg, and I had an uncle in Stroudsburg. So and Stroudsburg isn't really a big place, so I felt like my uncle would know this doctor, and I got in touch with my uncle, and turns out he knew this doctor very well. So I started communicating to that doctor through my uncle, and had him put in a word for me as well. So there was a lot going in my favor, and there was a significant. I was at a huge advantage because I nailed my interview. I had somebody put in a word for me in this program, and I didn't have to worry about the residents' feedback, because the pre-interview dinner was one. The residents there were friends with my senior, and my senior himself was in charge on the day. So and I think March 20th, when I got to know that I matched into Right, I genuinely felt like the process is very fair. I would say, what I mean to say is fair in the sense that I felt like I matched into the program that I'm best fit for, and I really feel like that today, after I've got in touch with a bunch of my co-residents and co-interns, that everyone believes in living a well-balanced life, and everyone seems to get along really well because of our personalities. And I feel like the program has selected us as a bunch because they kind of know that we're going to fit in. So I would say trust the process. That's the take-home message from what I'm saying. That trust the process. If you match, great. The chances of you matching are higher than the chances of you not matching. But if you don't match, trust the process. Analyze and try to understand what you did right, what you did wrong, and at the end of the day, this process is absolutely beautiful. It's gonna transform you as a person, and you're gonna make memories for a lifetime. So I hope you guys enjoy your interview season, your application process as well. It's a very good learning experience. The application process is one of the best tools to introspect and get to know yourself better. And reach out to me if you have any doubts. Try to get in touch with contacts as early as you can. They really help you. And once your application material is ready, you can relay it to me and to your seniors to get it proofread and make sure that you haven't done something you shouldn't be doing. All the best. stay in touch. I'm really looking forward to the day when each of you send me an email saying that you'll have matched. All the best again, and see you guys.